Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Dork Tales, and today we are doing a tier list of characters. I am Kelly, your dungeon master, storyteller, what have you, and we are going to be going through every one of our prolific players and ranking their characters. I'm going to be talking to the players in question and getting them to say whether or not their characters are everything from S rank down to D rank. So we're going to be doing tier lists starting today with Christine, who is likely our most prolific player, definitely our longest lived player in terms of stream life. Hi, Christine.
Hello.
How are you? Are you excited for this? This is going to be weird.
I'm excited and nervous. I don't quite know what I'm doing here.
That's great. It's going to be wonderful. We're going to randomly pick your characters, and you are going to we're going to talk about them, and we're going to rate them. And this is going to be in terms of things like effectivity, just general like vibes, and you are going to help me sort them, and I'm going to argue with you on them. So hopefully this won't come back to bite me. So are you ready?
All right, let's go.
Let's go. All right. So, you understand the basic premise, right? S rank is god tier, A rank is like really good, B rank is it's alright, C rank is like, oh, you could have done better, and then D rank is just trash. There is no F rank, because if it was F rank, it wouldn't be on the tier at all.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to just randomly select from this list without looking to start. So we're going to start with Sophia from Technocracy Zero Sum. Where do you think she should end up? What's your vibe on Sophia?
I feel like she's a relatively solid character, but she's definitely not my best work.
Okay.
I would call her trash. Maybe like somewhere between B and C. I can't quite decide there.
I don't think she's C. I think we'll start off strong. Let's start off strong with a B, because you got an accent for her. She is getting more powerful as we go, and she is like you're bringing it. Let's start her off as a solid B to get us going. Okay, so there's that. Let's do one that helps start off Dork Tales actually getting like viewed by people. Let's start with Callie Thornhill then.
Oh my god, I adore Callie. Callie was so much fun to play, and she was one of the first characters where I just like synced into it right away, and just kind of first game opened my mouth and Callie came out.
That's true. You were doing that voice for months, like off camera.
Well, and it just kind of happened.
What do you remember about Callie?
Also, her personality wise, she just kind of happened.
What was your favorite part about playing Callie?
Honestly, probably arguing with Lysician.
Yeah, fair.
They had some fairly gentle arguments back and forth, which were really great. It's hard because that game is kind of tied up in like issues with the mid to late game of that module.
Mm-hmm.
But the early game was so much fun, and she was just so solid. I feel like she's fairly iconic. I wouldn't necessarily call her S rank. I feel like she's a solid A though.
You know what? I'll agree with you on this. We can settle for A. Let's go further back, actually, or around the same time, and let's go to Kaylin Amastasia from The Secret of Hexeter House, which is a little known game that we ran for 12 episodes over the course of like a year and a half, because we lost a player through it, and then there were scheduling issues and like the start of the pandemic, and that game just it limped to its closure.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? This was your dragon sorcerer drow, and this was back before we were doing costuming for the most part, so so you weren't really dressed up for this, which probably is the best with most drow depictions pre Baldur's Gate. But what do you think?
She's a hard one because there were so many issues with the game that it kind of like there was a lot of problems because we were so far in between and had to miss a lot of games, and then we had to catch up and figure out what the hell were we doing. And like the overall story, I feel like was a good mystery story, but it was very difficult to keep up with. And I feel like for a good chunk of the time, I kind of got put into a leader role when I hadn't intended to be,
Yeah, because you don't
and
generally
I had
like
to keep
like being
making.
in leader roles.
Sorry?
You don't generally like being in leader roles.
I don't like having to make the decision when it's not clear cut to me. So
Hmm.
mystery stories in particular are hard for me because I'm not very good at picking up, um, what the hint is necessarily.
Hmm.
Sometimes I can, but to me, there's certain ones where it's obvious, and
Yeah.
then other ones where it's just like,
You're much better when the
I
clues are
don't know,
like in
tell me what the
front of
right
you.
choice is.
Yeah.
Like, I
It
don't
was
know.
it was also one of your
So I
first
get
times
paralyzed by choice decision.
playing a sorcerer. It was one of your first times playing any magic user,
It
really.
was. Yeah, so
Um,
Callie was my first, like, magic user being a druid,
mhm,
besides, of course, having a cleric. Um,
yeah, but that's still a
but
little
yeah,
different.
Caleb
Mali
was
is
my
pretty
first
physical.
sorceress.
So where would you put her?
I wouldn't call her trash. I think she had some really good solid foundations that could have been a very interesting character. Um,
But she didn't. She
but
didn't
she's
make it.
definitely not solid. I'd say
Okay,
she's maybe C.
C tier. All right, we've got our bargain basement right now for your characters. Let's jump in to your first one. Once we went remote, let's go to Corlin Jadefist, your character from It's Always Magical in Fandelia.
Corlin's trash. Corlin's trash. Oh my god.
Okay, that was your magical girl orc. Did you have a rat that also was a magical girl?
Yeah. So somewhere in one of the episodes, somehow I made friends with a rat, I think. And because I got an axe at some point, which you decided would be really funny, that I think wasn't it every time I critted, it would
Yeah.
do a magical girl effect,
Yeah, I didn't
and I would
realize
end
that.
up magical girl. But then it also once I got the rat started transforming with me.
Yeah, and got a
Um,
little skirt. It was pretty great.
well, and also it was that's a monk.
Yeah, she was a monk.
Pretty sure that
Jade
character was a
Jade
monk.
Fist. Did you
Yeah.
pick that name, or was that I love it when people in fantasy games have a physical characteristic that fits their job. And I like to think that that wasn't something they picked, right? It wasn't like, I think I should go with Jade Fist. I think that's pretty good as an orc. As an orc who's a monk. I like to think that that's actually the name they were born with, and then it just kind of worked out.
Yeah, I mean either would be fine. Like I honestly I picked the name because I was playing a monk and it was the goofy game. Like it was meant to be the chaos game in a lot of ways because it was a
Oh, yeah,
um
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but as a tabletop game.
mhm.
I think we could have gotten harder on that. We could have gone harder with the characters being shitty people.
Yeah.
So speaking of shitty people, let's talk about somebody else. So we've got her in the trash tier. Let's talk about Dawn Caller, your Goliath from Curse of
uh,
Strahd.
see, again, that's
C.
one
Yeah,
where I
that
feel
sounds about
like
right.
sorry?
You said C. C sounds about right.
That's another one where the very first game, I feel like I nailed what I was trying to do, but I lost it after that.
Hmm. So you think it's C tier?
I think we struggled with that game pretty hard.
I'm
So
willing.
I
I'm willing to drop her into C.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite call her trash.
She
She was
just
pretty fun to play,
she was
but
unfulfilling.
I feel like we didn't end up with a ton of inter-character RP in that game. I think we found Strahd very difficult to play.
Well, we were also changing mediums. Like we started in person, and then we
Mhm.
moved to online for the pandemic, and then there were just a lot of issues with it overall, right? And Strahd's
Mhm.
a very very sandboxy module. So if you don't have a little more structure, and when the stuff outside the game doesn't have structure, then it's kind of hard for it to necessarily run smoothly. So yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So I feel like I had some good ideas, and if you ever go and watch it, the very first episode, like the introduction episode, that is exactly what I wanted her to be the
Yeah.
whole way through because she was very loud, I think was the trick. She was very bluff and hearty and loud, and I just couldn't keep it going throughout. Um,
Well, it was an exhausting year for some reason.
mm,
Do you think that you like where she ended up as a lackey of Strahd and an evil character? Because she went like chaotic evil because of an alignment shift at the end.
yeah, I don't quite remember what she ended up as. I
You
couldn't remember if she alignment shifted or not,
you
but
you did. Something magically shifted
okay.
her alignment.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it was
It's been a
interacting
long
with the
time.
mirror. It was interacting in the mirror in the Watcher house.
Oh, I don't remember it.
I that's okay. So if you can't remember, she's C tier. All right, let's do the list in order now, just because we got a couple out of the way. Let's start with this, the only good image I could find of you as playing Faith from Hunter the Vigil back in the day. So this was
Oh
your
god,
crystal store owning Lucifuge hippie.
religious nut.
Oh, that's right.
He
You were
wasn't a
also
hippie.
That's right. You owned a crystal shop, but you were like into like Christian white magic.
Yeah, very much so. Um, Again, I feel like I could have done her better, but it was a learning process. But she was fairly fun. I enjoyed the fact that you gave me my demon dog familiar that looked like Charlie.
Benny was great.
Um,
Benny was great.
Probably wouldn't have done that again.
I just think that's a weird, it's a weird concept that you mashed together too. I can't stop thinking about how, because it was
What
like,
I was trying to go for was that very white woman Christianity.
yeah, totally.
The visual, like very not
Performative.
necessarily like very performative, very performative, very because you see a lot of those sorts of people like in stereotype, but also like actually in real life, which is kind of scary.
Mhm.
But they're anti-vaccine, they're all about like these health things and salt crystals and salt lamps in their house and all this stuff.
You got to be really careful
And
what
they're
you say
also
right
very
now.
Christian.
I don't want to offend the turmeric lobby.
Oh yeah,
We're
turmeric
sponsored
lattes
by
too.
Big Turmeric. Don't say anything. And big Himalayan salt. Those are our main sponsors this month, Christine. Don't do it. I just the way that I'm thinking about it is like those characters, and the fact that she owned a crystal shop, and she's like, oh, I have a phone call. It's suspected spam. I will just hang up on that. And oh, my sound was muted. Okay, hold on. Sound. 1414. Okay, cut back here. Like owning a crystal shop and being like super into religion and things like that, it just feels like it's like people are mixing up like Superman and Jesus. Like, yes, and then Jesus came to Earth and he set up a crystal palace, like, and then he trapped Satan in the
Fair.
Phantom Zone,
I think I
which
was trying to make
I would
her
read that comic.
well, because she was rich girl, remember?
She was very
Daddy
rich.
helped. Daddy supported her with uh, setting up her business and her really nice condo and all this sort of stuff. So I
And
was trying to be like follow a lot of like religious tropes, but also be rich white girl in Vancouver
well,
type thing.
let's talk more about Vancouver. So I'm thinking that she's in C. I could put her even in
Yeah,
D. What do you
she's
think?
a C or D. I would say
No,
probably D.
let's put her in D. Screw her. All right, let's go ahead and let's stay in Vancouver with Megan from Bitches of Brewery Park. That character was
Oh,
pretty uneven throughout play, but she's not a
I'd
bad
put her at
character.
C at
It's
most.
to see, just
Yeah.
like
Well, because again, I struggled with kind of ending up the leader for a bit, and we really worked on that as players behind the scenes to try and push it back into Jen
yeah. And Jen did a
instead.
great job. Jen's gonna definitely have her Brewery Park character is gonna probably be like an A rank when we do this. I have a feeling.
Yeah, because mine was meant to be the sneaky in the shadows, comes out of nowhere to support the team type thing, but ended up being a lot of front and center the
I
whole
thought
time.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny that I set up this big, like, tragic romance plot and you just didn't engage with it. It just didn't taste right. Like, you just were like, nah, I'm good. And I'm like, but he's so complex and now he's possessed and now. And you're just
I
like,
think I just didn't really know what to do. That was still one of my earlier characters.
I mean,
And
sometimes,
I think I was very uncomfortable in her, I think.
I mean, that's fine. Sometimes plots just don't vibe. I was just like, I set this thing up and it just didn't work. Right. And that's a me thing too, right? That's not a you. That's an us thing. Like it didn't vibe. I probably should have talked to you about it out of character, but I thought that I was really sure back then that that plot was going to land for you. And I should
Yeah.
have just talked to you. That was back when I was still feeling things out. like doing like live
I
production.
think, yeah, a lot more of trying to, like, surprise the player as well as the character,
Hmm.
whereas that doesn't work so much for more scripted, not scripted, but more planned production.
Yeah, I think so. Let's talk about
Um,
like a more regular production then.
sure.
If we're done with Megan, do you want to say anything else about Megan?
Like, I think conceptually she was a decent character. She went real dark though with that unfulfilled romance plot.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like she had potential. Like the bones of the character were fine. It didn't fit. She was a pair of leggings that didn't fit right.
Yeah. Well, maybe she'll stretch out a little bit if she ever comes back. Let's talk. Speaking of, I'm not taking the segue there. Vivian from Breaking Tradition.
Oh, I want to put her up around like A or B.
A or B? Why? I'll put her in
I feel
B
like
right
she
now, but see if you can argue your way up to A. So this was your character for our Mage short series to help promote Lore of the Traditions by Onyx Path Publishing.
yeah, you know what? I think she probably does belong in B. I feel like I didn't have a ton of depth to her because we were doing a short run playing a specific thing type game, but I feel like she could have potential. But I needed to develop the backstory a bit more and develop a bit more of the details. But she was a lot of fun to play. It was very weird. I found playing her because we all decided to play lesbians, basically, or bi. And as I am not personally, it was a bit different. It was a bit of a mental shift to play her and
To
get really
to
flirty with my fellow characters.
Fair, and to be in an established relationship too with another player.
Mhm.
So that was fun. She was also pretty wicked. I want to keep her around B. I think we can argue this later if you want. Let's talk about another mage right now though. Let's talk about Phoenix. You played her once in Mage 1999,
Oh,
but you requested she be added to this list.
well, it's because I want you to bring this game back. Um,
Where is she?
if we just base off the one time she was played, the design, the costuming, the props, what I was doing with her, like I feel like she should be up around like A or S
I'll give you
because
A. She doesn't have a character
I
yet, but I'll give you
she's not yet, but based on what I had of her, like I had a fully like immersed character.
I'll give you
because-
A for vibes alone. I will say that before you sent me that selfie, I was pulling screenshots for her,
yeah.
and there was like I had like 15 potential screenshots in like 5 minutes because you were in very good character. So it was very easy just to grab people.
Well, and through the whole game, like I was listening to what was it like industrial like metal
Yeah,
type
yeah.
playlists in the background with my big ass headphones and just like that was the character. I probably because it was a one shot at the time, I picked rotes and spell ability, like magic abilities and whatnot, based on the fact that it was a one shot and we were probably going to get into combat. So I
Mhm,
didn't pick long term stuff. Basically, I statted her for a one shot.
mhm.
Um, so she was not necessarily a doable character over long term. I'd have to restat her if we actually
Yeah.
went into a game. But the concept of her, I really loved.
Okay. I'll be satisfied keeping her in A. I'm gonna start getting hypercritical as of here
Okay.
though.
As we start getting into the more
Yeah.
long term characters.
Flora from Old Gods of Appalachia.
Oh,
I'm gonna put her at a B. She is, and you can argue with me, but she hasn't really developed.
I
She's
feel
got
like
bones.
yeah, well, we haven't had that many games yet.
Yeah, but only the two.
So I feel like B is pretty solid. Like I've managed to stick with accent pretty well and roughly stick with the personality, but I haven't had much chance to really dive into the personality too much beyond like a little bit of meeting up with the childhood friends, like for a short conversation and
Hmm.
a couple short conversations with her sisters. We focused a lot more on some of the other characters, like Louisa and whatnot, and Lily Ruth.
Yeah, most it's been Flora, get your gun, right?
Yeah, basically, like that's basically what
Do
Flora's
you think
become at
B
the
or do you
moment.
think C then? Because she's still developing.
I think she's got a fairly solid, and I've stuck with the characterization so far.
Okay.
So I would leave her at B.
All right. Okay, let's go with let's go with something that is my wild card for this. Kate Bishop
I
from
finally put together what the hell that thumbnail was.
that's right. It's Kate Bishop.
Extra Life
It's
game.
the new Hawkeye from that Extra Life game where you had to play a character played by another character playing a character. You were a guy playing another guy disguised as another guy.
I don't even remember how I played her. I would think low
All
because
right,
that
fine.
was
We'll put
just
her
like
in D. I wanted to put her there as a joke. So,
that
but
was just like a huh?
yeah, fair.
I barely remember playing that because I think wasn't that like the Sunday night last
It
game
was. It was
type
the game
character?
where Stephen Strange was running a D&D game for all of you.
Right.
And then
Okay.
Krista ended up joining as a sixth player, and I had to
And
like
then you ended up in the D&D world as the character you'd been playing as
yeah.
the
And then I
Marvel
had to run the
character.
game as Stephen Strange, so it was a very sarcastic DM. It was very it was pretty fun. Okay, now we are down to characters you actually give two shits about. Are you ready?
Oh
All
no.
right, and you got to be fierce, man. Not everybody can take S rank. Luna from Panic at the Radiant Citadel.
Say maybe B.
Really?
Yeah. I haven't had much chance to really develop her yet or dig into a lot of her characterization, so she's just a little bit of a chaos beast. A
That is
cutesy
fair.
chaos beast is
That
kind
is
of all
fair.
she is right now. So
Okay.
I love her. I enjoy playing her, and I'm looking forward to developing it. But I haven't had a chance really to play out with Jen yet. The whole Feywild stuff that's
I
gone on between the two of us.
I thought you were gonna push for A with like just the vibes and like your bra game on that.
It is a pretty great bra game on that one.
It is. I
Um,
mean, it's hard. It's hard to follow Jen's act in that game, though.
yeah, that's fair.
All right.
Um, but yeah, no, currently she's not got anything beyond the one dimensional like fireball type action, right?
And you've got a familiar name, Chaos now.
Yes, I do have a familiar named Chaos. But yeah, she's a lot of fun to play. But I don't necessarily feel like she's got much dimension yet. And I'm hoping that will change with upcoming games
There.
in a few weeks.
Well, hopefully we will. I'm excited to get back to playing that game.
Hmm. I mean, your character in that is great. We should be ranking your characters at some point.
I don't get to play that often. I have to throw a bunch of NPCs up here.
That's fair. Well, I mean, that counts.
Okay, well, somebody else will have to host then. Find somebody to host that game. Let's talk about Gwendolyn Shafra.
Oh, go. Win is S. Win is S. Come on.
Win is S.
Was amazing.
You just don't shut up about that accent too. You're very proud of your syrupy monk accent.
I just love that it fit so well for her and it worked so well with how I played her to really make people underestimate her and like pigeonhole her, but then she'd come out with something really insightful but said in a way of just like, well, I mean, I don't get it, but right?
What's better, buckets or Harwar? Buckets?
Buckets.
Buckets. You can put Harwar in a bucket, so I guess that means it's superior. It's like paper, rock, scissors.
I had bucket proficiency. Okay. I hit stuff with I pretty sure I knocked something unconscious with a bucket.
You killed a bunch of fire with a bucket.
I'm pretty sure I also hit people with a bucket later because
Oh, you hit bullywugs with a bucket.
yeah, because after you gave me proficiency with bucket, I then was like, well, if I'm proficient with it, doesn't mean I can hit like apply my strength bonus if I'm like
Yeah, it's a
fighting
monk
with it.
weapon with a bucket then. I like to
Yeah.
think that bucket proficiency came from like the old, so like in I've seen it in like Japanese high school shows where
Mhm.
like when the kids are late they have to stand in the hallway holding buckets of water. That's how I
Mm.
picture she got bucket proficiency, was from being late to monk school or doing something stupid and then having to hold buckets of water or sand or something like that to get that massive strength.
Carry them around a lot.
Okay, so we have an S rank. Claudette Belmont, first of her name, Empress of Emrys. Where is she?
Ah. Nothing below A, that's for sure.
Okay, so A, fight for S. What do you think? So Claudette, like, you had a really great romance arc. You had a good power arc. Yeah, she's
I
solid
feel like
A. Do you think she actually managed S though? Do you think she managed to be God tier, or was she just like super? Because A is really respectable.
I feel mm, I feel like she probably sticks around A.
Yeah. What were her weaknesses?
Yeah. Sorry?
What was her weakness then? Why not S?
I don't know that she really changed that much over the course of the campaign,
Hmm.
like, or anything, so I don't know that she had a ton of character development. Like, she basically started as a person and became a slightly more resolute person by the end and, like, better at what she was doing.
Hmm.
I don't feel like she changed or anything based like, I think I probably could have started her more naive, more flawed, and then had her learn more, but I started her out a bit too knowledgeable and a bit
Yeah.
too, like, aware.
Out of and also it's a little hard because out of that entire game, if I was to pick anyone probably as the protagonist, like Claudette definitely fits into that like the white bread protagonist role.
Yeah,
You know, she's the studious magic wielding girl. Like she's an anime character in many ways.
she is. So yeah, I would say, like, she was a really solid, fun character to play, but I wouldn't necessarily put her up at S?
Okay. Alessandra Barraquel from Fandelver and Below the Shattered Obelisk. I think
Oh, she's real solid.
she's an A for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think
She
she's
might
high?
become S by the end, like,
That dip was
because the
pretty
game's
iconic.
not over yet.
The game's not over.
Sorry?
The game's not
The game's not over yet.
the dip was very iconic.
That was pretty amazing, and I am really enjoying playing that out right now with Krista because half of what I'm doing is just to make Krista laugh,
Right?
and
It's
that's great character choices, honestly, so
it's really great. Um
yeah, she might end up S rank by the end.
I think she's doing very well, and I think your choices to role play her and to particularly play a tank character with a low constitution, so that you're
Mhm.
always on your back foot a little bit with her, is bringing more interesting role playing opportunities up. Because
Fair.
she's not just rushing in and tanking everything and
Mhm.
being headstrong. Like she has to be more tactical and more careful,
Mhm.
and that gives us that vulnerability gives her a more reserved presence, but not in a way that like detracts. It's really cool.
Well, it's really helped pull out backstory for me too, because it's been kind of like, okay, well, as situations have occurred, well, what would have led to this? How would her family have treated her from, like, if they were like a family of big tough fighters all the time,
Mhm.
right? And all of a sudden they have somebody who gets hurt a lot easier. Like how would that affect how they treat them? Because they do love her,
But they
but it's
can't
that
help
kind
but be
of
a
like
little disappointed in her.
a little disappointed or just a little controlling in the sense of, well, we know better
Yeah, very
type thing.
patronizing.
So we don't want you to get hurt, so we're going to control what you do so that you can't get hurt,
Mhm.
even though you want to do these things.
So let's follow that train into being patronized with
Yeah.
Dr. Evelyn Taylor. Now, I don't think I need to argue for that. Like you're gonna put her in
Yeah.
S rank. You were
No, I
nominated
feel
for
like
an
Evelyn's
award
S.
for playing her, for God's sake, right? Like
Yeah.
which
No, Evelyn's
you were
pretty
robbed,
amazing.
kid. You were robbed.
And I feel like I've managed to keep that going the whole way through of letting it come out a little bit more and a little bit more as we get farther and farther in.
Yeah,
The
she's
whole
her screws are
like
loosening.
yeah, like she started out very prim and proper, and she still tends to speak that way until she gets irritated, and it's coming out more and more the like rude replies or like verbally foul replies
Hmm.
and whatnot as needed, or just getting a little crazier and a little more like shut up and do what I tell you to do.
Yeah, the wig is slowly coming down.
Yeah, slowly I'm teasing bits out of the wig,
Well, and I think
um,
it's really
which is a
interesting
great deal of fun.
because it's the same group, right? But you went from like Um, you went from like werewolf, where you were like, oh, I really don't want to be the leader, but like ostensibly Evelyn's the leader of the doves. Like they're it's more like
I guess it
debatable.
feels more obvious. I have an obvious enemy. I have an obvious direction,
Hmm.
much more. Like, there are times where it's not that obvious. You give us some choice and we kinda go, "Ooh, I don't know." So it is kind of a mystery, but it's not a mystery like Hexador or like, the political games of Werewolf,
Yeah, fair.
and that's where I struggle. I struggle real hard with political intrigue or that sort of game.
Hmm.
I don't mind reading it or seeing it happen where other people are have quick responses and put shit together and they like know what somebody's hinting at and that sort of stuff. Like that sort of dialogue can be really
Hmm.
interesting to read or listen to, but I can't do it.
I find that political games can be very, very boring if they're not done exactly right as a player.
And I
Um,
find them very stressful.
they can be really stressful, especially if you are not given the correct. It's very hard as a game master, I think, for a lot of people to balance what clues you're supposed to give in mysteries and in political scenarios, and to give players the opportunity to look behind the curtain. And
Mhm.
I think part of that is because a lot of game masters don't show their hand out of fear of revealing things, but then they
Mhm.
don't involve the players in consensual choices to lean into things. Like, you couldn't get Game of Thrones style political machinations nearly so easily in a tabletop game before anybody in the comments says, well, my game was very easy. I did, yeah, well, you got lucky. Or you did it right. Congrats. You're not who I'm talking about. I'm talking that like sometimes it's very hard to get all of your ducks in a row for really impactful intrigue without letting the players know that, like, even giving them cutaways to know that there's a scheme afoot and Littlefinger has plans.
Well, because like in those sort of things, like Game of Thrones,
Mm,
those characters are written with one person understanding what they each know about everything and what they could pick up. So they know everything that's going on
yeah.
and how to then plan that person around it.
Mhm.
But if I'm in a game of that, I as a player might not pick up the clues that the character picks up. So that's where I need somebody else to tell me
Mhm.
what my character understands about the situation.
And that also, you also need players who are willing to play to lose and to play for the
Yeah.
drama of the situation. And not everybody gets that, unfortunately. Like, I'm very lucky that I have a bunch of masochists at the table.
Yeah, and I find it easier to do that when I really understand what the consequences of something are. And that's something that I found particularly hard with Werewolf was that I had never really played the game very much. I liked the
Hmm.
concept of it and I liked the idea of it, but we were playing a very we're the low group, we're a small group, we're being edged out, we don't want to lose our territory. Everybody's turning on us a bit, it feels like. No idea who to trust or what consequences our actions would have or
Hmm.
how we should be acting because I'm not a werewolf type thing, right?
You're not?
So I that's where that was fine. That sort of thing is stressful
Hmm.
when it's that sort of like tense situation and I really don't know what should be happening.
But
So
with,
whereas Evelyn,
yeah.
I have read extensive amounts of historical fiction
Hmm.
and I have studied that period in real history extensively. So I have a lot of like social understanding of
Well,
it.
and also your enemies are either a big corporate capitalist, industrial organization that's trying to
Mhm.
grind you into nothing mood, or it is an entire gender, because it's the Victorian
Yeah.
age, and like Mage the Victorian age is a very like girl power kind of game, a very rail against the patriarchy type of game, simply by the nature of being a game about four women who are in the Victorian age and don't want to be quiet wives.
Yep.
So even if it wasn't like intended to lean in, you kind of would have to. Like, I don't see anybody making a fun game in that situation that didn't have a little bit of, fight the power in it.
No, exactly. So I feel like, yeah, that game it was easier to be Evelyn in because I knew what I was fighting,
Hmm.
I feel like. So making the choices to fuck over her husband's life, fuck over her life in some
Yeah, James
ways,
Morgan.
cut ties real hard, like do this sort of stuff was all relatively easy to make. So I didn't
Mhm.
really get paralyzed with choice there.
Because what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Fair,
Well, but also like I knew what the r- probable consequences of my actions would be.
fair. All right,
So I could really make a choice knowing it.
we're down to two characters.
Yes.
Zanata Vash. This is
Oh
going to be
my
a hard
goodness.
one for you because where is she on the lower tier of the list? I know she's not your favorite character.
Yeah. I think because I didn't come in at the beginning with everybody else, I found it hard to click with the group a bit. Like I enjoyed what we played, definitely,
Hmm.
but I didn't feel like I didn't have the same time to develop the character.
Well, and it was definitely there is this air of and Zanata,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
It's the Echoes of Valor and Zanata, even though
Yeah.
Zanata is revealed to have always been technically a member, sort of.
Well, and I loved like the whole backstory thing and getting to play that and waiting to drop hints and things like that.
Yeah, you edged
But it
that
did
out
feel like
real
I
well.
was playing a player character NPC more than anything.
Well, and to be fair, they needed you for a lot of those
Yeah.
fights. Like,
Well, and that's why why when I didn't join in the beginning because I was too busy, that I was pulled in towards the end when I was less busy and the NPC had died.
mhm,
So I was kind of there to help them get through the end fights, but also, haha, you have a connection still to Valis.
it's true. So, what do you think? B rank
Uh,
or C rank?
I'd say C because she doesn't have a ton
Really?
of.
Even with the costuming, you did paint yourself every time.
I did, but I feel like she doesn't have a ton of personality that
So,
was very obvious.
do you think that she's worse than well, not than Luna, but do you think that she's worse than Sophie?
Uh, Actually, no, that's true. She is kind of. I feel like she is kind of on level with Sophie.
All
Well, maybe
right.
Sophie needs to move down a little then.
You think Sophie's a C rank? You wanna drop both of them down?
I'm not. It's hard. I need something in between.
I know, I
They're kind of
know.
like half. So I feel like they're not really on the level of Luna and um Flora.
Well, Flora's still in development. Does that mean that
Yeah.
Luna's an A rank? Is Luna on par
No.
with? Okay,
No. I need a rank between B and C. It has to be like B/C.
I'm gonna say for the costuming and for the effort you brought in and just coming in after
Yeah,
the
because I
fact.
wouldn't say she's on level of Dawn Caller,
No, not even
but
close. No, she'd kick Don Collar's ass in more ways than
yeah,
one.
I guess a B then.
I'll keep her at B. I'll keep her at B. This is like B is room for improvement.
Okay.
C is you're almost failing, and then D is like, I mean, D's
Yeah,
get degrees, so
this is true.
I should make a double D where it's just like worthless but attractive. Um, and finally,
Oh, good.
Malia, which is going to be your hard one. Where does Malia go? I mean, obviously Malia goes in D and C and B. I mean, with the game's been going on for 5 years. She has been in every category at least once. There have been entire arcs where you have not played her particularly well because you've been like not focused. There are arcs where she was like S rank,
Yeah. She's
like
really hard because I feel like she's been a learning curve. Like, because she's from the beginning. She's from
she's
our
in the
first
beginning.
game.
She's still around. It's been 5 years playing this character.
And I like the concept I built of her, but I don't know that I've really I feel like I flip-flop on her personality a
I
lot.
feel like we're gonna get a lot of comments on Malia just from like the longtime viewers who are just gonna be
Yeah.
yelling at us no matter where we put her.
I don't know where to put her because
She's not. I know she's a little
I feel like
bit.
she's got a lot of time and effort and, like, stuff built in, and I feel
It,
like I'm doing a little better with her. She's starting to flesh out a little bit more,
mm,
but
is she S rank?
I wouldn't call her S rank.
Okay. Would you call her B
She could
rank?
probably sit in A or B.
I think due to inertia, she's gonna end up in A. I think A is probably where she needs
She
to
just
stay.
has so much behind her. And, like, I've had great moments with her, but I have kind of flip-flopped depending on how I'm feeling, which, I mean, is relatively typical of an actual tabletop game.
Especially a
So
really long running one. Yeah.
I feel like she's my legit tabletop character versus, like,
The more
a streamed game character.
fair.
We've been playing that game so long, I've kind of flipped back and forth on how I play her and how I
Mhm.
act when playing her, and it depends on how I'm feeling that night. Whereas the others, it's much more easier to get into, like, okay, I'm acting as this character, not Mally is just me.
Fair. All right. So, if we're settled with A, then you have rated all 18 ish of your main characters for the stream.
Wow,
Yeah. So
that's
you,
crazy.
it's, I mean, technically 17. We don't really count Kate,
That's fair.
but like, still, that's a lot. So, what do you think of the spread? So, you got two S ranks, you've got a lot of A and B, and then, I mean, look, I think this is really interesting. Like, look at the curve.
I I
Because,
am glad that the majority of my characters are above C rank.
because if you look at this, the ones that were in C rank are all people that are either joke characters, boop boop,
Mhm.
ones you played right at the beginning. Like, look at your hair. Like that's old. They're characters that were okay, but didn't really get the chance to develop as
I just
much.
never really either it was that I didn't really click with the character or the group didn't really click and we didn't develop a lot of RPing and thus the character didn't come out,
hmm Your B
I feel like.
ranks. Your B ranks are 1, 2, 3 out of 5 of them are characters that are in their first 5 sessions or are still developing, right?
Mhm.
And I think Sophia being a very reserved character in Zero Sum makes it a little hard for her to stand out more because
Mhm.
Nolan like is such a bombastic personality that it's really easy
Mhm.
for me to kind of just do whatever in that game. But Sophia just kind of like sits back and watches a lot of the time, and that doesn't like
Yeah,
she.
and it's hard because there is a lot of, like, computer-based stuff going on, like, in the downtime of what needs to happen to get us going, and she's
Mhm.
not that type of character. She doesn't have those proficiencies.
Yeah, so you don't have quite as many opportunities. So maybe once we get like off the sub a bit more in future episodes, I hope, and like more into like having to deal with threats. Like
Mhm.
kind of it seems like where we're going with
Yeah,
like the
like, she
viruses and
she
the
wrecked that hit mark.
you wrecked the hit mark. But like some of this plot, the recent plots of like going up against things that are like slightly more biological will give her a chance
Mhm.
to shine more. Zanata just was an unfortunate like side effect of just where she came in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she would have been probably a lot of fun if she came in at the beginning. We wouldn't necessarily have had the same backstory potentially.
Mhm.
I mean, we could have. It could have been the hiding then from Valis
Fair.
type thing,
That would have been interesting.
which could have been a lot of fun. But we might not have thought of that if I'd come in at the beginning. But she could have been a lot of fun coming in from the beginning. I don't know that I would have necessarily done Orc then,
Mhm.
because I wouldn't have wanted to paint that long.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm looking forward to because I don't get to play very often. Painting isn't as big of a deal for me, so I'm looking at some
Mhm.
potential characters in the future where I get to paint a little more. I'm excited
Well, and
about
I
that.
found, like, for some reason, green came off you really easy, but didn't come off me really
It's
easy.
undertones. It's got to be undertones of skin.
So it
Like,
really stuck to my skin for the night. So I really had to scrub my face so hard, and I would still have a tone to my skin.
mm,
Luckily, it would be gone by the next morning, washing again after sleeping,
I
and
think
that would come off.
I
But
think the big thing is that like some people work well. Like you work really well in like purples and reds and things like that. I look sexy in
Mhm.
green. I don't know what it is, but like when I'm green, I'm like hot. I don't get it. I'm a hot orc. I'm not a particularly good looking like red tiefling. I
Mhm.
look kind of like I look like a grape that's about to burst when I'm a tiefling. Whenever I've done purple or green, but or purple or red. But man, when I go green, I'm meant to be seen. And sometimes I guess it's just the coloration. Also, I think I have oilier skin than you, so I think it comes off me easier.
Potentially, yeah. I have
Yeah.
dry, fairly dry skin.
And Luna's still developing, Flora's still developing. Vivian was good, but like she's kind of on the borderline, right? Like she probably could have been argued for A, but it's been a while and I kind of forget about her. All of your A
I feel
ranks.
like if Breaking Traditions had been a longer game, in that we knew it would be a little longer, or we didn't have a clear deadline period that we were doing it in, she probably could have edged up into A because I wouldn't have been playing her quite as immediately, "This is what she is."
Mhm.
Um, but I did really enjoy playing her, and I loved her costuming. I feel like I did a great job with that.
You did. You did. I think it's funny that Phoenix got a one shot and you vibed her up into A. You were trying to vibe her into S, and I'm like, no, she didn't earn it. She didn't earn S rank. But
She
you're
might be eventually.
it might be eventually. Who knows? Ask for it on the Patreon. And then of course, like your A rank
I would
is
love to
real
bring her back.
obvious. Besides Phoenix, like your A rank is like because A rank is solid. I don't want
What I
anybody.
find interesting is
Mhm.
that it's split evenly between 2 modules and 2 homebrews.
Interesting. And then your S ranks are two characters where you really started getting into the costuming and voicing and really started making a
Mhm.
lot more character choices. Actually, you can really
Mhm.
tell because Callie, your character choices for Callie were module-based character choices. They were, hey, what's your background?
Yeah.
You're a harper, you're kind of a spy, let's work with that. And then
Also, I
Mal
think there was one where she had, like, a secret lover
yeah.
was one of the secrets as well. So the lover thing was a secret, and the Harper thing was a secret produced by the game,
Mhm.
and I rolled with it, and we kind of and it worked out because I started out for some reason very flirty, and it was moment of it, and it just worked, and then, we kept going with it,
But
and then we kind of at the end, we're like, "Haha, do you wanna bet how many times she actually did that or was just receiving secrets?"
you can do both. It's a secret injection. But then like you had Wynn's character before we even had like any inkling of about what Witchlight would be. Like we really worked on that character like on a vacation over the summer.
Yeah,
And
because we were kind of like, "Oh, okay, well, something different."
and I was like
And it was you
play
who
dumb.
suggested, like, unlucky, and
Oh
I
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
expressed, I think, that, well, I didn't wanna be, like, unlucky, unlucky because that could just be a downer the whole time, and then you suggested, like, unlucky and, like, "Oh, well, if she's gonna trip over a
Misfortunate.
curb, she'll trip over a curb,"
So like
type
clumsy,
thing.
like basically like Sailor Moony.
It's like, if you drop the bread and butter, it's gonna land butter side down
No, that's
type
just
thing.
thermodynamics. That's just the way the universe works. That's if Wynn dropped it, you know that it would break the floor somehow. And then she would
No,
step on
it would land in the pile of ants or something.
and then she'd have to fight the ants.
Yeah.
Wynn's entire characterization can be like summed up with the "oh man" kind of noise.
But then it was like, "Aw, alright, make the best of it."
Exactly,
Okay.
right? And I think that was a very charming character. And Evelyn is just S tier. Evelyn is a better character than Wynn even. So like she's like S plus.
Nice.
But we don't have that category, so she's just S. So how are
I
you
do
feeling about
enjoy
this?
coming up with ideas for Evelyn's magic
Right?
of where she's
And you're really
going.
getting into it. I love that because in Mage the Ascension, like coming up with magic and coming up with rotes and coming up with effects is a big part of the game, but a lot of people just expect the storyteller to do it for them. And you're really kind of
Mhm.
stepping outside of your box here. And I love that.
Yay.
You're getting into it and it's great.
Mhm.
And I can't wait until book 3 because it's going to be just like super wild. And I want you to watch Jen's face in particular through the
Mhm.
majority of it because she is going to have so much trouble not just exploding constantly. It's going to be great. I can't say why.
Nice.
But keep your eyes open. So, hey, everybody, that is going to be our tier list for Christine. We've got a nice curve here, and I like that these characters are all in development going to solid characters that really shine through. What do you think? Let us know in the comments and let me know who else you want us to do. I know that I'm going to be doing Amy and Robin pretty soon, and maybe I'll even do one of my own because I know where my long-term NPCs would end up and also my PCs. I could do both. Maybe
I
we'll
feel
get a
like we'd have to go through games and maybe pull a couple NPCs so that you would have something in the D rank or C rank.
yeah, we could definitely pull
Because like
we'll
your
pull
big NPCs are obviously all S rank. Like,
not all of them, but like Prolix. We could take Prolix from
yeah.
Netherdeep. In my German voice, hello, it's me. I'm German. I'm Prolix. He's S rank. He's Super Saiyan.
Whereas, because like Levna, come on.
Levna's A rank. I wouldn't say she's S rank. See, this is what we got to do. So, hey, leave in the comments what you want in my tier list when we do it for me. And with that, I think we're gonna bring this to a close. So, thank you for joining me for this, Christine. This was a lot of fun. I'll get you to, you can join in. We'll get a couple of people talking when I do mine.
All right.
All right, it'll just
That
be a
sounds good.
cacophony. All right.
Not just like us arguing for our favorite NPCs.
That works. That works. I just gotta have images for them. So that's gonna be it from us, folks. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to see more Dork Tales, don't forget to subscribe. Follow us on Twitch, all of our social medias, and come back very soon because we've got a ton of games in the new year coming, as well as it's already been announced, but Transylvania Chronicles for Vampire the Masquerade is coming. Christine is going to be in Phandelver and Below and Mage the Ascension, and also might be running her own game on the Patreon if we hit 175 patrons. So consider that. It's going to be a fantastic game that I cannot tell you anything about, but it is going to be it is positively going to be I got no spoilers. I got no spoilers for it. It's gonna
be great.
It's gonna be regal, is what it's gonna be. How's that? It's gonna be lovely. It's gonna be lovely.
Yes.
And with that, thank you, Christine. We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.